Jerusalem. You know the name, right? It just sounds ancient, like it's been around forever. But what if I told you that's not quite right? That for a huge chunk of its early history, it wasn't even called Jerusalem? Well, today we're going to dig in and solve the mystery of how this incredible city actually got its name.
Yeah, Jerusalem. The name itself feels permanent, you know? Like it was carved into the hillsides from the very beginning. But the real story is so much more complicated. It's a tangled web of conquest, belief, and, believe it or not, language. In fact, there are at least 3 different, competing stories for how it got its name, and we're going to look at every single one. All right, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to rewind, way back. We need to look at what this place was before it became the Jerusalem we think of. We're talking about a time before King David, when the city went by 2 other names entirely, Salem and later, Jebus.
So check this out. The city's identity was constantly changing. I mean, over about 1,000 years, it goes through this massive transformation. Around 2000 BC, it's this little place called Salem. Fast forward to about 1400 BC, and boom, it's a major Canaanite fortress called Jebus. And then, around 1000 BC, everything changes again when King David conquers it. So let's start with that first name, Salem. The first time we ever hear about this place is way back in the book of Genesis. Its king, this really mysterious figure named Melchizedek, blesses Abram. I mean, think about that. The city's very first mention in history links it directly to one of the most foundational stories in the entire Bible. Okay, so after Salem, it becomes Jebus. And this is where it gets really interesting. For centuries, literally centuries, the city that was destined to become the capital of Israel was actually this impenetrable fortress controlled by their enemies, the Canaanite Jebusites. Joshua and the Israelites, they managed to defeat the king of Jebus, but the city itself, nope, they couldn't take it. So it just sat there, this foreign stronghold, a constant thorn in their side, right on the border between the key tribes of Judah and Benjamin. So you've got this unconquered city, a real problem for the Israelites. And that situation right there sets the stage for one of the most game-changing moments in the entire story, because a new king is about to step onto the scene. And what he does with Jebus, well, it changes everything. So we're around the year 1000 BC, and this is when King David enters the picture. Now, where everyone else saw this unbeatable Jebusite fortress, David saw something different. He saw an opportunity to finally unite his fractured kingdom. He was absolutely determined to do what no one before him could. And he does it. David pulls off this incredible, daring mission and captures the fortress. But what he does next, that's the real stroke of genius. He makes this city his new capital. Why? Because it was neutral ground. It didn't belong to the northern tribes or the southern tribes. It was the perfect move to bring all of Israel together under one king. And to really hammer home this new beginning, he rebrands the whole place. He gives it a new name, the City of David. Just like that, he wipes away its foreign past. He takes an enemy fortress and turns it into the absolute political and spiritual center of his unified kingdom. Okay, hold on a second. If David called it the City of David, then where on earth did the name Jerusalem come from? Because if you look at the texts, the name Jerusalem starts popping up right around this same time, used almost interchangeably with City of David. This is the real puzzle we're here to solve. Yeah, and let me tell you, the answer is not simple. At all. This wasn't just some straightforward name change. It's more like a linguistic detective story, with a bunch of different compelling clues all pointing in different directions. So no, there's no single easy answer here. What we do have are several very different theories, and each one has some pretty solid evidence behind it. So let's put on our detective hats, shall we? Let's look at the clues, one by one. Okay, so we're going to break down the 3 main theories about how Jerusalem got its name. Let's dive into the first one. This theory is all about grammar, suggesting the name is basically a literal description of how the city grew, with the clues hidden right there in the Hebrew language itself. So, according to this idea, you have to break the name down into 3 pieces. First, you've got Shalim. That's the original city, sitting on just one hill. Then you add a prefix, Yeru, which means something like increase or more of. And finally, you stick on the ending ayam. Now, in Hebrew, that ending means a pair of something. So it fits perfectly, right? It's describing the city after it grew to cover 2 hills. So, put it all together. Yeru, Shalem, ayam. You get Yerushalayim.
The name could literally just mean the bigger Shalem on two hills. And the name we use, Jerusalem, well, that's just how Yerushalayim sounds after being passed through different languages into English. Pretty cool, huh?
All right, theory number 2. This is probably the one you've heard before, City of Peace. It comes from the Hebrew words Ir Shalom. It's a really beautiful idea, right? But a lot of scholars aren't so sure. They think this might be what's called a folk etymology. That's basically when people, over time, give a name a new, nicer meaning that wasn't there originally. The argument against it is that the name is probably much older, from the Canaanites, and that Shalem wasn't about peace at all. It was the name of a Canaanite god.
And that brings us to our third theory. And this one's a bit of a curveball. It suggests that maybe both names we've been talking about, Salem and Jerusalem, are actually based on a big misunderstanding, a mistranslation of a totally different, much more ancient word.
So the idea here is that the original true name was actually Shalom. Now, this wasn't a Hebrew word or a Greek one. It was something older, a unique word that meant peace or righteousness. And from this point of view, the names we know today, Salem and Jerusalem, well, they're just different attempts to translate this one lost original word, basically mistranslations that have stuck around for thousands of years.
So, there you have it, 3 completely different paths that all lead to the name Jerusalem. So which is it? Is it a literal Hebrew description of the city's geography, the increased Shalem? Is it the city of peace? Or was it named for an ancient god? Or is the whole thing a mistranslation of a single lost word that meant righteousness? It's a lot to think about.
Okay, so we've got 3 competing stories, all wrapped up in one single name. It's a real puzzle. But what does all of this confusion, tell us about the city of Jerusalem itself? When you think about it, the fact that we can't pin down the name's origin is actually perfect. It's a perfect reflection of the city. Jerusalem's history isn't simple. It's layered, it's incredibly complex, and it's been built and rebuilt and shaped by so many different cultures, languages, and faiths over thousands of years. The name itself seems to carry all of that history, all of that weight.
So what's the real story the name Jerusalem tells? Is it a story about hills and geography? Is it about faith and peace? Or is it about a meaning that's been lost to time? You know, maybe the real answer is it tells all of those stories at once. And that's just a powerful reminder that sometimes, even in a single word, there's an entire world of history just waiting for you to discover.